Hello, welcome to another Random Code stream. This is part 4 of working on this idea to put attributes on a record so that you can control properties such that they shouldn't be included in equality calculations, and also potentially also handle the ordering of them. So let's get into it. Let's get my music going. And where do we leave off on this? Well, it builds. We know that it builds. But there's some things we need to do. And right now it's basically handling the equals and get hash code, which sounds simple because we want to do this and this. But as I think I took notes on this somewhere here. I thought I did. We could have private void build equals and then have a build get hash code. All right. And we probably want to put in, we want to figure out what the properties are. I thought I wrote this down last time. A whole big bunch of notes. Oh yeah, here. So this is where we want to get a property. And then we want to have these property models on the record model to say these are the ones that we care about, because this model is specific for our source generator. So we need something like property model. And we probably, at the point that we make it, we don't care if it has, God, I keep doing the wrong thing. String name, string fully qualified. Fine, whatever. And here's where we're going to do the calculation to figure that out. So what we need at the end of the day is an immutable so our properties is going to go new list of property model, and then we're going to say this dot properties is equal to properties. Okay, now this is where we need to make the calculation for each var property in, what are we given here? Record symbol. Yeah, we don't get the properties there. We need If I said named, so can you actually just skip properties? No, it would still be that. Okay. So now we want to check, does the property have our attribute on it? Because if it doesn't, we include it automatically. What we want here now is symbol equality compare default equals. And then here we want get type by metadata name. And here we want, what did I do there? There. No, we want that one. Okay, so we did put on, yeah, we got to do that. Allow multiple equals false. You can only put one of these on a property. So single or default. Now, if a quality attribute is null, then we would add it. Or a quality attribute this is where it gets tricky. And I always forget. Because we're allowing you to create it 3 different ways. This one I'm going to have to play with. I'm going to be like, to do. How do I get the values? Because I just don't remember off the top of my head. So if it's null, we will definitely include it. New name property.type get fully qualified name based on the compilation. Okay, that's wrong because we don't know the values, but we're going to set up some a test project here quick so we can start drilling into this. So what this is going to do is it's going to get all the, we should say, how do we get the values from the attribute? So what this does now is it allows us to come back to here and say, we can now build a quality. Well, actually, before we do that, we want to say indent writer indent plus plus. And then we want to say minus minus here, and then we say this dot build equals given the indent writer, and then build dot get hash code. Okay, so now equals, we want it to be sort of like this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say this, this, this. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is indent writer right lines. And then for each of our property in this dot model properties. Okay, so now we can do that. Next up, we're going to have to do a little bit more because we need, oops, this dot model class name here. Whoops. Whoops. Okay. So we now have that set up. Now we just have to put in all these. Now that'll be interesting. Except the last one, we don't want to put the and at the end. I know, it's the small things in life, but I equals 0, I less than. Thank you. And so now here we want to say indent writer right line. And we want to write is something like this. Whoops, 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 whoops. The quality comparator, this needs to be no, not that. I didn't mean that. Property dot fully qualified type name equals, and now these names need to be the same. Property dot name, other dot name, and then this, if I equals this dot model properties dot length -1, if that's true, what we want here then is a string dot empty. Otherwise we want, whoops, that. And actually I'm going to pull that out because that's getting hard to read. And then let's call this trailing and. Works for me. All right, cool. So we got the equals now. Now we can do the get hash code. And so what we'd want to do here is starting off with this. Except we don't need to do that. And then we're going to need some, okay, hold on. And then we need to return hash code like that. Okay, what I forgot up here is we're going to need to say intended writer plus equals 2 because we got 2 spaces here. 1, 2. And I know if my buddy Rich, not Buddy Rich, not the drummer, my buddy Mitch from Australia has helped out on this stuff, is probably looking at this going, if only you could use my raw interpolated string literal thingy. Which I'm like, yes, I take PRs. This one we only need to indent once. So here we can say, whoops, plus plus, and then here we just need to say minus minus. Oh, and I forgot the trailing, that would have been bad. So yes, let's stick this here. And then we need indent, right line. Yeah. Actually, get to my handy dandy expression body literal, right? Because then we don't need this. We still need to outdent, but we don't need to do that then. And then we get rid of the return. All right, this one we can't because we gotta, in here, this one's simpler. We have to do this. We can actually make this a for each. I really wish they had a way to do that. Convert to for each. Thank you. They do that. Okay. So in this case, all we need to do is add property.name, and we're done. That is it. I think we're now ready to write tests. Amazing. Okay. We want to do this, then we want to say indent right line, just a space between them, then that, and then that. Yeah. Now, okay. So now we're going to start playing the cleanup game. We're gonna need. We already have a test project, so that's good. What we're going to want now is tests around the generator portion. This may be where I want to start throwing in like a directory called analyzers. Generators. Because I think that actually is going to, it's going to start getting kind of messy even though the majority of this stuff is analyzers, if I ever wanted to put in like a suppressor here as well, you know, I think... And then the generators, we could move the builders. So let's do that. Let's make an analyzers folder. And then let's make a generators folder. And the generators are going to take this. They're also going to get the models, and they're also going to get the builders, because that makes sense to me. And then this is all this in here. And then we do that. Now, it did do that. All right, nice. So, nice. Okay, that's good. We're going to want the same thing in the tests. Analyzers. And then generators. Okay, so literal number information, where did that go? That stayed in transpire. Oh, it's up here. No. Oh, it's in the shared. Okay. And that's the only way to... Okay, fine. So... Nice. Okay, so let's see what builds and what doesn't. Really? Okay, so what's failing? Oh, okay, that's fine. And then that's failing because it doesn't know where that is, but now it does. Okay, now that succeeds. Now that succeeds. If we run all the tests... Well, none of them run. That's a little concerning. Okay. Maybe I just shut down, start up again. And then okay, that's concerning. Why can't it find any of the tests? Why is it doing this? don't need to do a folder include generators. Well, okay, fine, you do. Let's just quickly make a quality generators test. Which should be an internal static class. There. Okay. I don't get why, though, it's not... Why is it not picking up that it can run these? I don't get it. Why would this suddenly not work? Blurf? I don't know. Well, we got a lot to update. I don't know if we can still update that one or not. Let's just update all the things. Okay, so now if we say clean, and if we say rebuild, and now we say run all tests, well, it's taking longer. Which isn't necessarily a good or bad thing. Okay, now they all passed. All right. I'm kind of curious. Did we ever... That's why. Okay, hold on. Well, that doesn't explain why it wasn't running before, but just updating shit. Sorry, stuff. Fix this. So, the one thing I want to do, though, here is change this to .NET 10 references, because it should be... Oh, you won't be unused for long, because right now we're getting those every single time, and that was an optimization I've made in other test projects, is to not do that. There. Now if I run the tests, once the first time it gets it, the rest of them should fall pretty quickly. Should being the operative word. Or not. It should be much quicker than that. Okay, well, they run. I shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth, or whatever the phrase is. We do actually get them to run, so that's good. I'm kind of curious, what is the current version of this? .10.05. Oh, you know what? Maybe? Do we do the same? Yeah, we do the same thing down here. And there's also tests with... Okay, so let's change that here too. And then do that up here. Okay. And we could make this so it's the same method in both places, but I don't know, whatever reason. Let's now run all the tests and see what happens this time. It still grinds. A little bit less though, but who knows? Whatever. Okay, so what are you doing? Git commit. About to test generator. Moved a bunch of files around. Okay, so we're about to test. Before I do that, let's refill on coffee. On a Thursday, I had a self-defense lesson, and I don't know when I did it, but I do remember at some point, I think it was like we were supposed to be kicking a bag, and I tried to kick with my left foot a little bit too hard. It was just a straight front kick, and either I hit it wrong or I landed wrong, and I felt just this tiny little twinge in my back, but I know it really well. I'm like, oh great, here we go. And the rest of the lesson was fine, but when I got in the car and I was just sitting and then I got up, it was already really, really tight. And so Friday was kind of annoying to walk around, but you know, I was immediately stretching it at night. A couple stretches that seemed to work. And then by Saturday, it seemed to be pretty much almost gone, just a little sore. And then today it's fine. So I'm like, that's good, because I've had it where it is like almost impossible for me to get out of bed. And it's really tough. So hopefully it stays good this way. Okay. We have tests that do all the things for us here. So let's grab the incremental generator test, because we probably want that. Not here, here. Okay, why are you... Oh, because I don't have it. Well, where are you? C# testing. Oh, yes. Okay, we do need that. We do need to add that one in. And so we need to come up here and grab. And these are now 1.3s, so we got to change that. There. So now this should go away. Yes, we're going to use it. Shut up. Okay. We need... No, I keep picking the wrong thing. We want to go to generators here. And so we want something like this. So, we don't need any of that. equality markup. So let's grab our example that we wanted to have. Except maybe not as complicated right out of the gate. Let's do something simple. And we need this to be partial. So we're going to want a GUID ID, string name, and uint age. Okay, so now we don't know what's going to generate. So we take that out. Equality generator. What's the problem? Oh. Oh, we don't have that method. So we're going to want that on our test assistance. And then we're going to want equality generator. And we're going to want equality markup attribute because we need to include that one as well. And so this project doesn't currently have a reference to it. Okay. So now, what does this do? Hopefully something. We don't know what. Huh? Why can't you just all resolve? Why can't you all just be happy people? Why do you gotta be like this? Did I actually... We're just gonna put that in this project. And use 1608. Just ignore it. I can't sit here and figure out. Okay, so how did it fail? Oh, we don't have the right file, so that's the first thing. Okay. Except it's in the builder. Wait, we never... Where's the record model? Oh, we never... Wait, whoa, stop. Oh, we don't have this in the right place. Okay. What do we call the file? Something like this. Okay, so it's going to be probably something like customer equality markup. Well, it generated something. What we don't know, we're going to find out in a second. It looks kind of right, just at first glance. H. Partials. We do a struct for some reason. I don't know why. Oh, it also picked up. We're going to. Okay. So that's funny. It did not pick up name. I don't know why. Equality. We have transpire there. Also, can't tell the difference between one or the other. I think that would be right syntax, right? Yeah, but that doesn't matter. This is... It's definitely resolving to the right one, so that's all right. Okay. Oh, and we don't have... Okay, so let's start fixing some stuff while we're here. That. Okay. Trailing. I think what we need at the trailing is that. Okay, so let's do that first. We need set of string trailing code. If it's this, what we need to do is actually that. Close it off. So that'll take care of this problem that we currently have. The hash code I think it was just off a little bit. So we do want to exclude. Hey, Ice Cube. We do want to exclude this. We don't need that. But it's really funny that it excluded this name right out of the gate. I think it's because of the way I'm getting because it sees that there's this one here. So, okay, that's fine. Incremental steps. We'll get there. And I don't know why it's calling it a struct either. Okay, so now we've got the problem that we got two problems. Let's journal our problems. So we want a to-do list here. To do. We want diagnostics. We may want other things, but this is something we got to fix. Fix this. We need to. It's outputting struct, and it shouldn't. No coder, just not output in Python. Oh, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. The properties should exclude this one. Okay, those are pretty easy fixes. So let's go back into Quality Builder, specifically with the record model, because that's where we want to say of type that, where property name does not equal this. Okay, so that should take care of that problem. And then we don't know why it's doing a struct naming. Oh, because the type kind. Okay. So a couple little debugging things we need to do now. Are we in debug? Yes. Let's see what happens. So we should have now on the model, we should have properties. We should have 2. Well, we should really have 3. Oh, actually, I did that wrong. I want to put a debug here. Okay, so... Oh, it's because it's not null. We haven't had... Oh, that's why. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So this one we get null because we're on a property ID. We put it on name. Okay, so we add it. Nice. Now we come into here and we see it. Yes. Okay. So now this is the question I had, which is, how do I figure out I guess we could look at it and say if there's one constructor argument, then we have to look at is the type a uint or is the type an enum, and handle it that way. Otherwise, if it's 2, then we know the order that you're giving it in. Okay, so that's how we could do it. Because I don't think it gives you what the values of the properties are. Okay. So if we don't have the attribute, it's easy. We move on. Else. Now we got to do something a little harder. If a quality attribute dot constructor arguments length is equal to 2, otherwise we got to do more things. So if it's 2, then we know that you did an enum record usage uint. It would be nice if we had a like ordering to these parameters. Let's do that. Let's actually say that this is first. So if you don't have this, you're going to have a new and then uint max value. There. Now down here, what we want to say is select item 1. No, we want to order by item 2, select item 1. There. That way we capture the sort ordering with the ones we want. Okay, cool. Hopefully that works. That's why we do tests. Okay, so this is the stickler. Our record usage is equal to record usage of equality attributes constructor arguments of 0 value. Oh, and this needs to be... Oh, well, that's cute. Yeah, we don't... Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. You're on YouTube since I was born. Yeah, I'm not a youngin'. The reason why this type isn't resolving is because the analyzer project doesn't have a reference to it, nor should it. So we have to actually look at the underlying enum value and say, is it 1 or 0? So, which is fine because the default type of an enum. Do we want to do excluded first or included? Int that. Oh, you don't like that. We know it has to have a value based on our and then order. So this needs to be a uint of the first one. If record usage equals 0, 0 equals include. Then we include it. So then we would say up here, we do this, except one small change. We don't do that. We do the order of what they gave us. Okay. Now it's going to get a little trickier. We're only going to have 2 or 1, so I can assume 1. If equality attribute constructor arguments of 0 typed, that's type. Terms I type symbol of the constant or null if the type can't be determined. If symbol equality compare default equals isn't there like special type or something? We want it to be this. Is there any way to say what the special? Well, okay, that would be easier. Let's just do that instead of doing... Let's say not plus. Oh, I can't type. And this is a nullable, so we should actually just say... Okay, so if it's a uint, that means they did the order, which means they want to include it. So we will do that. We'll get the order from 0, and then we pass it in. Now, else, the only other case could be is that they passed in a record usage with that. Except they didn't give an order. So in this case, we say int uint max value. Because they're saying they want it included, but they didn't care what the... which would be odd, that you would put it on a property to say, yes, I include it. But we'll support that. Okay, so if we don't find it, that's easy. If we do find it, then if you gave us 2, the first one is record usage, should be an int, order should be a value. Hopefully. And let's put this comment here just as a reminder. Okay, so we get all the properties. Doing this. If you said zeros you want to include it, then we use the order here. Otherwise, if you gave a uint, then we do that. Can you actually say a special? Yeah, you could say it's an enum, but then cast the value to an int. Okay, that'd be fine. So we get the order value as a uint, and then we pass it in. Otherwise, we say, did you want to include it? And as long as you said, yeah, we don't need to copy that again. As long as you said yes, but now this time you didn't give an order, so we do that. Now what happens? Well, let's just get rid of this. No, not that. That. Okay. And then, well, we can copy all this right here. These are small. When I do this with rocks, my, my source generating mocking frame. What? Why do you do that sometimes? I don't understand that. Whatever. I don't get it. Let's just get from the log. That seems simpler. Why? What? There. Thank you. Okay. So now let's change this to that. What do we get? Still get struck there. We got to fix that one. I forgot about that. But now we get the equals where we're doing... Yes. Name is first now. Notice that in the get hash code and also in the equals because we gave it an explicit order value of 3. The other ones don't, so they go after. So name goes first. Nice. Okay, so we still need to fix, though, why is it doing this? Let's get rid of all our breakpoints, and let's make sure we hit this. Probably because this type kind is not what I'm thinking it is. We want it to match what they give here. So we really want it to be this. But it's not, so why? Unknown. Well, isn't that a kick in the teeth? Do we not set that? Maybe we don't set it. Maybe that's the problem. Okay, well, this type kind is equal to record symbol type kind. Okay, but we still want to debug it because I'm not sure. Like, it's not just what the type kind is. Yeah, see, now it's a class, but we don't want to put class there because the original code didn't have it. We want to see if they actually had the modifiers on it. I think. So here, can you actually see record symbol modifiers? Not original definition, that won't help. Syntax, declaring syntax references. By the way, if you're watching, please subscribe if you haven't already. I would appreciate it. I think you have to look at the declaring syntax references, all of them, and determine, did they actually state what they want to be? And we could call that a type specifier. So if we come back here, if we look at record symbol declaring syntax references, length. Yeah, there should be one. There could be more because especially for doing partials, we do have to be careful. This is a simple syntax reference. (40 to 148). Or do we just say screw it and we don't care? Meaning, if I go to .NET Lab, let's say I had a partial record customer here. Okay, fine. But I'm going to have a partial record customer here as well. Oh, no, that's interesting. Aha, that's another piece of the puzzle. So actually, we're doing the right thing on accident. We don't put those here. Like, let's say they made a public string name get. Okay, that's fine. It's saying it's because it needs to be required. Yeah, but that's fine. So what we really want is what we're doing, again, by accident, which is not to put those there. But what happens if we said public partial class? Yeah, well, what's the problem here? Record struct. So we would put it after this keyword. That's fine. If I said struct here, though, then that also gets messed up. And then that's fine. But if you don't put it here, then if you say class, no big deal. Okay, so actually, We can put it in, but we're not putting it in at the right spot, I don't think. Type kind partial record class. There. Okay. So now if we go to our test, this is going to say a class. Do we finally get code that generates and builds? Nope, we don't. That's fine. Can you tell me what the diagnostics are? I might just be missing something. Let's see real quick. Typer namespace GUID. Oh, up here, using system. Now what? Oh, that's okay. So it didn't know. Okay, global system.GUID. I feel like I'm so close. Okay, so we still have some diagnostics. That's okay. Nullability reference types and type of parameter other. A bool customer equals. Customer equals customer must allow overriding because the containing record is not sealed. Oh. Interesting. Okay, so if I say something is equatable, could you actually implement that? No, we want to... Here, let's do... No. Can you just say public class customer implements that? Can you actually implement that for me? Okay, so if it's a struct... You would do that. Okay. All right. That's fine. We do need to say what the nullability is here. So that's the first thing. Var other nullability is equal to this.model type kind equals class. If it equals class, then we need this. Otherwise, string.empty. And then we put that right here. Okay. And then what was the other one? If it's... Okay. Var allow overriding with this dot model is sealed. If that's true, then it's string.empty. Otherwise, we gotta say override. But we want a space there. But we don't. But we do, but we don't. But we do, but we don't. We'll just put a... Well, we don't want a space now. Right, I'm sorry. I'm being... Okay, so if it's sealed, we don't put anything there. You'll just say public bool. If it's not, it'll say public override space bool. So here, this should say override here now. And this should say customer here. Still failed. Customer equals no suitable well, what do you want from me, man? Oh, virtual. I'm sorry. To make it... Okay. I think that's what it's getting at. If not, we're going to have to... We're down to one diagnostic now, I think. Converting null literal or possible null value to non-nullable type. Line 10. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I don't like not null. I like is not null. I think that's what it's complaining about is the converting null literal or possible null value to non-nullable type. I don't know why you'd cast it to object though. I really don't know why it does that. I just copied that from the what I found is the implementation using, I think, .NET Lab. Like if I take, this is my customer, and I come back over here. And let's get rid of this because it doesn't know what that means. So you say customer, equatable customer. Can I just... I'd like to see it as C# with all this crap on it, but that's okay. So we get the equality contract, we get the ID, the name, the age. Customer created, toString. We don't change that, print members. Okay, get hash code. I don't know why it does this, but it does. We don't have to do that. Equals. So here we say object this equals other. Object other does not equal null. And this equality contract, other equality contract, and then we do the equality comparers on all these things. Okay. I really don't know why it does this. If I take this, and let's just shove it up here. Okay. What don't you like? Oh, yeah, shut up. Okay. Just shut up. So now we're going to come in and say, oh no, we're going to do that. Now, what is it complaining about here? Null check can be simplified. Yes, that's exactly what I want. That's exactly what I want. So let's just change it. Other is not null, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm fine with that. So let's take all this out. And then let's change it in the test. So it is other is not null. Now what? Triumph. Triumph, baby. Finally got a test to pass. That's always, I never get over that feeling. I never get over that feeling of you struggle with something, you work on something, and you either can't figure out why it's not working, or it's not working, and you keep struggling to fix it, figure it out, and then when you finally come to the conclusion, you're like, yes! It is a very, very sweet feeling. Now, there's more that I got to test. There's more that I got to do here. But we're now on a very good path. Very, very good path. Yeah, and we're putting in the name here, which is right. We do want to... I think if I'm looking at the builder here, and I look at... Well, the class name. That's just the name and then all the type arguments if they're there. So we want to do a whole bunch of tests here to say what happens if this? What happens if this? What if this is here? What if that is there? Okay, we can take that 2 off. We've now done this. Is there any other to-dos here? Yeah, okay, so, but we did clear out the ones we want here. Good, 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 good. I'm actually very happy right now. I'm very happy with where we're at. I'm probably going to stop the stream here fairly quick, but I do want to write down a couple of things to say what is left, what needs to be done to address certain things. But this is nice. I'm kind of grooving on where this is going. So... yeah, you could come into your code on your record and just say, hey, I want to make sure that this one... and why you pick 3 here would be kind of stupid. You'd make it 0 or whatever you want. But what that does is then it pushes that up to here. Then once you do the typical record equality things, it says, hey, either I know name is typically going to be different or that the calculation might be more expensive than others. So maybe I want that first, or maybe if it's too expensive and I know other things that are inexpensive that could be different, I push those up to the front as just a tiny little optimization. Because if you know that, then you can put that in. This is cool. I like this. And then get a hash code. We just use system hash code and we add these and we say, give me the hash code. You calculate it. Maybe that's not as performant as what this monstrosity is up here, but it would work. We don't do the type though. Like we're not including the equality contract for the get hash code. But we're excluding that property because we don't want it part of equals. That doesn't make any sense. Because why the quality contract is literally just the type itself. So unless there's like a edge condition, I'd rather just keep it out. And I think this would be more than suitable, even in cases of like inheritance and stuff like that. So that should be fine. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, so what's remaining on this? We need a lot of tests. Test cases. When record is struct. When record is sealed. Should change equals. It's interesting is the equals said you should add virtual, but not the get hash code. Probably because it's an interface implement. Okay, fine. Virtual. Sealed. Added to definition. I believe. Struct should be added to definition when we do that. Okay, so those are that. When equality markup doesn't exist, nothing should be done. What else could we do? Oh, generic records. We need to have that in there. I guess nullable properties would probably be a good one we want to touch. Because that might affect both the get hash code and the this. Maybe not. We don't know, but we'll see. Oh, putting something into it, putting record in namespace. We just want to make sure that we're omitting the namespace correctly. Anything else? Accessibility. E.g. public really we want it to be internal, but we're just going to run the gambit. But we really want to make sure that if we have a public one that we're putting that in there correctly, or a non-public one. If it's abstract, oh, and then, so yeah, if we do struct should change and equals should not have for the parameter. Okay. All right, now I think added notes for tests to add. All right, so that will be in the next stream. Now, I don't know when that's going to be, though. I may have a busy week this week, so I don't really know if I'm going to have any time to do a coding stream this week. We'll see. It all depends on stuff that we can get done at work. And if it goes well, which I'm old enough to know it won't, because it just never does. If it goes well, then maybe I can do one near the end of the week. If it doesn't, well, then I'm going to have to be focused on that stuff. That just is what it is, unfortunately. But At least we got a test passing now. We know the tests that we need to write, and then we just need to have those in there to make this. But this is really cool. I'm glad I got the crowd participation. Mitch chimed in and said, "Hey, this is actually discussed somewhere that, you could just write a source generator." Well, now Transpire will have this equality markup attribute where you can put these on and handle those cases. And so you will just have one out of the box. You just have to reference this NuGet package and off you go, which is really cool. I like that. I like those little things. So, yeah, that's a good feeling. And that's, again, why I'm keeping these coding streams to be coding and not just Copilot figured it out for me, which, again, is, I've said this a million times. I'm not saying that's wrong. In fact, I mean, if I've thought about this too, because I do think a bubble's going to burst. I do think that there's going to be a reckoning with this. Specifically, it's going to be, where is this going to be used? And quite frankly, in coding, it kind of makes sense to, because it just gives you that speed advantage that I'd rather, like I said, at work, I've been working on a change for the stuff that we're working on, which is a whole bunch of IAC deployment building stuff that we're supposed to use Flyway for our database deployments. Well, the application currently has it all as EF migrations in C#. So I just said to Copilot, take all this code, move it into SQL as Flyway migrations. And, well, it looks right. I got to test it to make sure it's right, but I just got that done on Friday. So Monday is making sure that the container it builds actually Flyway runs in it correctly and it sets up a database for us. So, but to do that by hand, sure, I could have done that by hand. I would have been miserable doing that by hand. At least this way I can take this rote task that I'm like, I know a human could do. I know I could do. It would just take time. And frankly, I don't have the time right now. Even if I did have the time, I still wouldn't want to do it. It would be like, that's probably at least 2-3 days of work. Why would I do that? But in this case, with my streams, this is a form of puzzle solving to me, and I like it. Again, this is me going to a gym and actually working out. When I go to work, I use a forklift to move stuff around. That's just the way. And coming to that conclusion has definitely helped me frame this stuff a little better. But yeah, I definitely think there's an AI reckoning to come with legalities, with copyrights, with all this stuff, and maybe even to a certain degree the coding developer aspect of these tools. If the model prices keep going up and up, at some point you do have to weigh how much are we spending, and is it actually costing more in certain cases than what it would do to not use it? And I know it probably sounds extremely silly, but I mean, I just looked at Netflix. Their prices are going up. All this stuff is going up. It's, if it becomes too expensive, then how do you justify that? How do you justify that cost? And again, it's speculation. I am not going to sit here and say this is the way it's going to happen or not. And if frankly somebody tells me that's the way it's going to go or not, I'm going to be very, very skeptical of it. I think we just have to keep reevaluating, seeing where and actually, hold on. I'm going to end on bringing up an article here because this article has really, excuse me. See if it finds it. Yeah, here it is. You probably saw the flash on my screen when it was like in light mode for just a second. And actually, I'm going to put this in the chat. So the article I'm talking about is this. And so basically if you don't know who Stephen Taub is and you're in .NET, what is wrong with you? You need to read the articles that he does. They're extremely detailed. They're very engineering focused and to me, very pragmatic and practical and based on data, based on results and outcomes, not based on hype. And I really, really appreciate that. And I so wish in our industry and in our profession, we would stick with this rather than, oh, like this LLM just generated, 50 files and it made my project. Woohoo. Well, how do you know it's good? Oh, it looks good to me. How do you know it looks good? This article talks about how they used Copilot Coding Agent on .NET Runtime. And .NET Runtime is like the heart, everything in .NET, all the stuff. You have C#, that's the compiler. And the .NET Runtime is like the literal runtime, the jitter, all that stuff. But it's also all the libraries that you use, like System Hash Code, System GUID, all those types, cryptographic types, streaming types, all these things are in there. It is a massive open source project. And it has it has to satisfy a lot of guarantees for a lot of customers, be reliant, be performant, all that stuff. And so what they did is they spent the last 10 months saying, well, let's try using CCA and let's get metrics. Let's see what works and what doesn't. And I would just say read it. It's a long article, but don't just go to an LLM and say, summarize this article for me. You're missing quite frankly, when people do that and just say, oh, well, I'm using this to summarize. There was a great comic strip that I saw where the first box was a student saying, I don't have time. I don't have time to write this 15-page report on this book. ChatGPT, write me it for my class. And so writes and he goes, yay, it did it. So he submits it. And then the teacher on the other side's like, I don't have time to read all these 15-page summaries from all my students. ChatGPT, summarize the results of each one of these and tell me an estimate for a grade or something like that. And yippee, it's like there's no humans involved anymore. And you could say, well, that's exactly what I would want, right? But I don't. I think that is completely missing the point. It's like kids that go to college and are doing nothing but doing everything with LLMs. It's like, what are you learning? Oh, I'm learning that I can just use this. Then why spend $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year? Well, I need that diploma. If that's the way it keeps going, college is going to become worthless. The point is that yes, you use these tools, but you have to learn how to use them and you have to learn how all these things work before you can make a confident statement that yes, this is good or no, it's not good. And again, this article does, I think, a really good job of using statistics, using metrics, using data to drive outcomes, to say what worked, what didn't. And if it didn't, does that mean that in this case we need to change something, or does that mean in this case it's just not something we should use? Like one of the things he mentions is essentially the size of the tasks that you give to CCA. And if you don't know what CCA is, do I have that? Like if I go to one of my, let's just go to Transpire. If I go to that, yeah, you see agents here. And I have a license because of being a Microsoft MVP. I can go into here and I can basically say, make everything better. Obviously, that would not be a good thing. But if there's a task, if there's something like I have an issue here, and like this one, maybe I can say, hey, look at issue 39 and come up with a fix for this and create a PR, or create an analyzer that does this for me. I could do that. That's what he's talking about. And so you can create plans, you can, explain all this stuff. Okay, fine. So they used it on .NET Runtime and came to these conclusions and said, if it was something very basic, or wasn't like a huge change, typically CCA would do very, very well. And yeah, you still need the human interaction to read the stuff, but they said that's starting to clear their backlog of all these like low-hanging fruit stuff, but things that, yeah, we'd really like it. and starting to get them into .NET. So accelerate stuff. That's great. Okay, fine. I mean, and I know somebody might say, well, how many trees do they kill when they do this? Yes, I also am 100% in agreement with the environmental impact with this stuff and how that is impacting what's being done. Okay, so I'm not discrediting that at all whatsoever. But he was saying if it gets to be too large, and too large, you know, you have to figure out what that means, but that can start to affect when it starts going off the rails. And even if you give it skills, even if you give it more context on what it should do, it could still go off the rails. So, you know, using it effectively is what is going to make you an effective developer. It's a tool. Use the tool effectively. If you're going to just say it's magic and it does everything for me, good luck with that. I personally am not going down that path. So anyway, I would highly recommend reading this article. And again, the link is in the chat. So check it out. But I'm going to end the stream here because we're ending on a good note. We got this done, at least initially. We know how many tests, or at least a good scope of what tests to write. And I can do that in the next. Oh, one other thing I should say is integration tests. We want to get integration tests into play here. So that needs to be done. Cool. And then we also need to add diagnostics, similar to what we're doing in Rocks. We need to have actually an analyzer to look at when this is being used or these things are being used, to flag them, and then maybe even provide code fixes or not, but at least to flag them to users to say, hey, you put this equality markup on a record that doesn't have any of the equality attributes on it. What are you doing with your life? You know, don't do that. If you exclude every property, that doesn't make any sense. Why are you making a record that doesn't have any equatable semantics? That makes no sense. So don't do that. But we'll do those in future episodes. Again, I don't know how much time I'm going to be getting in the next week. Maybe I get a lot of time. Maybe I don't, but I'm at least level setting here. I'm also going to be playing more Blueprints this afternoon and evening to get some time into that game because I'm making some really, really good progress. Really made a lot of good progress in the last stream last night. So looking forward to seeing if I can start to break even more things through. So that's going to be cool. So I want to thank everybody who stopped by, either live or in the future watching the VOD. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I would really appreciate it. But with that, I am going to end this stream. Thank you all for watching. Take care, and I hope to see you in the future.